In today's video, we're going to be talking about more spell teasers. Yeah, just like I uploaded my video a couple days ago talking about like the 60 plus changes, that is only the start of the spell library that's getting changed. Literally, I'd say almost basically every spell is getting changed at this point. And on top of that, we got more spell teasers yesterday. Kind of was busy doing other things, so I didn't have time to make a video. So I am one day late, but I still want to make a video regardless, talking about the spell changes. And the spell changes we'll be talking about are lore spellements. Now, lore spellements are the ones that tend to drop from different bosses that involve a gold key. So those are the ones that got changed. But the ones that were teased were specifically for the spirit schools. So nothing for balance yet and nothing for the elemental schools yet. We'll probably get a teaser for those, my assumption, on Sunday. But if not, eventually we'll be able to see them. So in this video, we're specifically going to be talking about death, we're going to be talking about life, as well as mid-spell changes, and give you guys my thoughts and opinions. So, of course, I'm not going to be on my storm, but let's head over onto the death character, and let's start there, and let's venture into all these different spell changes. Now, here we are on the death. It feels like I haven't showcased the death in a minute in the video, but the spell that we're going to start off with is Deer Knight. Now, currently, Deer Knight, as it shows, top path did not get changed. It remains the same. I think the only thing that got changed from top path was the accuracy. Now it's 85 accuracy. The damage remains the same, and there is no cap on the top path. So literally, your casual AoE was not adjusted. But when it comes to the middle path, I don't see any changes as well, other than 5 extra accuracy has been increased on this spell. But this bottom path entirely did get changed. So you guys can ignore the top path, middle path, remains the same other than just accuracy changes. But the bottom path was changed. So the damage of it was changed. So tier 2 is now doing 340 and it's giving a 40% weakness. And then on max tier, it's doing 370 damage and it's doing 40% weakness. So literally it's still split target spells, so just be wary about that. Thank God we still have this middle path, because this is honestly my favorite path of Deer Knight. I know a lot of people go towards the top path because they like the damage over time, but when you do use epic and you do tend to use an enchant, it splits the damage into the main hit as well as the damage over time. While if we're just trying to go for one big hit, I like using Deer Knight for that reason, because it's just one addition. It's just literally straight into the actual hit. There's no dot, so it just works for me. Kind of interesting to see what it how it's going to be used. I mean, it's a 40% weakness and you can use it on multiple targets. My only thing is I wonder if the potency of the weakness is going to deteriorate the more targets you select. I'm not too sure. We'll have to see. Or if it just remains a 40% weakness on everybody. We'll just literally have to see on that. But the accuracy was changed to 85 accuracy as well. And then the next spell we're going to be talking about, which is kind of interesting since it is the month of October, it is Headless Horseman. Now, Headless Horseman did not get a tier 4, tier 5 yet. I don't know if it eventually will, but no increases to the tiers. But when it comes to damage, the original top path remains the same, other than the fact is that there is accuracy changes, meaning we get 5 extra accuracy on this spell. Now, there is 2 separate paths now. There's a middle path as well as a bottom path. So this bottom path currently did get its damage reduced, and now this is technically the middle slot now. So I'll showcase damage, of course. But you guys can see that it's doing 355 at tier 2 and then 365 at tier 3. And then on top of that, it is 2 minus 35 chromatic weaknesses. So it is a damage decrease on the Headless Horseman. And on top of that, they added this new path where you would lose less, like the spell's doing less damage now. And on top of that, the weakness is increased. So the potency of the weakness is increased to minus 45 chromatic weaknesses. But at tier 3, it's only doing 270. Now, I know some people were saying that they do want to see this spell have a tier 4, have a tier 5 eventually. And honestly, I have no clue if that will ever happen or when it will happen. Honestly, I'm waiting for a day in Wizard101 that we have access to a Halloween spell for each school. And I'm hoping one day for Christmas, each school gets access to a Christmas spell. Currently, we only have 2 Christmas spells, which is Krampus and Reindeer Knight. And for Halloween, we only have Headless. So I'm hoping one day Bonferatu has like 7 spells with like different Halloween spells correlated to that, and I'm hoping Krampus one day has different Christmas spells correlated to each school. But that's just being optimistic. One additional thing I do want to mention that not many people have realized with some of these spell changes is that now these are like level locked. So you can't, for example, use Headless Horseman anymore in Mount Olympus, because Mount Olympus is or specifically Mount Olympus Challenge Mode, just not to confuse anybody. Mount Olympus Challenge Mode is level 30. Now, Headless Horseman has a PvP cap of 40, or Advanced Combat cap of 40. So, for example, you can't use that in Challenge Mode for Mount Olympus. So they are starting to PvP slash level cap spells, and it's interesting to see. I mean, I haven't looked at all of them yet exactly, but still, this is interesting to see because this will affect challenge modes and other things in the future if we ever go down back to even lower than 30. Who knows? Maybe a challenge mode Nightshade of the final boss in Wizard. I don't know, right? But you guys can see what I mean, and we can move on to the next spell. Now, Ship of Fools top path and the original tier 1 did not get changed. It remains exactly the same. The only difference is the accuracy is 85 instead of 80. The middle path remains untouched as well. Only difference is it went up 5 extra accuracy. Now, this bottom path is completely changed, and there has been some opinions about it. So, for example, what it currently does in game, at max tier, it does 435 damage, and you can split it. And a lot of people are using this tier 4 because you were able to use it in Mount Olympus Challenge Mode. It was doing 425. Still really solid. You couldn't use max tier because it's 35. But with the new changes, now it's going to steal 3 blades off the target. And then it's going to do 315 death damage at max tier. Now, one of these things as well is I wonder if the potency of the blades is going to be different. For example, if I use this card on multiple targets, is it going to deteriorate? Because I know certain spells do that, and you don't really know unless you actually use the spell, which I'm hoping that one day, whenever they update card text, eventually we can have if split against multiple, whatever, like 2 or 3 or 4 targets, it will only steal 2 blades, 4 blades, you know, like just an example. But I'm hoping one day we can get that on whenever you right click a card, because for example, certain spells like chromatic spells, whenever you're getting a chromatic blade, you know, for balance, you're going to get a less potent blade. So I'm hoping, you know, one day when you're able to right click a card, it will tell you what that is. But for now, it's just kind of like, eh. But still, stealing 3 blades off a target, I mean, it is 4 pips and you're still doing damage. So you can literally steal 3 blades and break a shield, for example. I don't know how useful this is currently in challenge mode. I feel like I just need this. I'm more of a person, I need to see these cards in my hand. Let me cook what I can think of currently. But as of right now, I'm not too sure what I'm going to use Ship of Fools for when it comes to challenge modes and stuff like that. But hey, now it steals 3 blades. Now another spell that's getting changed is Monk of Morning. Now Monk of Morning has multiple paths now. Currently what it is in game, it's doing 510 at max tier, and it puts a tower shield on you. And it's, you know, 3 pips and a skull pip. Now we're getting multiple paths. So technically the one that's in game is going to be top path, and it's going to be banned. Yes, so this is now a banned variation of Monk of Morning, but we do have a middle tier as well as a bottom tier. Now what middle tier is doing at max tier is 435 death damage, and it's going to give you a minus 65 shield. So increase to the shield, but there is going to be less damage on the initial hit. And then if you move on to the far bottom path, you can see that it's 335 death damage. And then on top of that, you get 2 minus 60 shields. I was about to say 65. You get 2 minus 60% shields. Just also remember, this spell is now level capped as well. It is now 40 on it, so you can't use this in Mount Olympus either for challenge mode specifically. And the accuracy for these spells all around got buffed by 5%. So increase to the accuracy of the spells, some slight nerfs to the damage, but there is different tiers to Monk of Morning. I'm kind of interested to see how people even if people are going to use Monk of Morning at all. I can see some people using the bottom tier path in 50 PV, but maybe that's just me thinking as of right now. But there's still a lot of spell changes to even think about, and we haven't even seen what elemental spells look like currently, so there's that. But interesting to see for Monk of Morning, and I want to see some strats when it comes to Monk of Morning as well. Now another spell that got changed which was not on my bucket list, which is Lord of Night. Now Lord of Night, I feel like is just one of the spells that hasn't been touched in such a long time. I mean, I remember when it was like a trap infection, and then it got changed to a regular infection, and I still really didn't see many people use it, if anything. So I'm glad to see this being changed. So this current path that exists in the game is going to be banned. It's going to be moved to path A, which is a top path, and we're getting a middle path and a bottom path. So the middle path at max tier is going to be 345, and it's going to be a drain, of course, and it's going to put 2 minus 70 infections on the enemy. As well as the bottom path, now what it does, or what the new one is, is 255 death drain, and then on top of that it's a minus 70% infection, but it gives you 3 of them. So I'm seeing a trend of what they're doing here. So for example, Monk of Morning only has 1 shield, but it does slightly more damage, or you can choose Path C, where it will give you 2 shields, but it's doing less damage. So same thing with Monk, or same thing with Lord of Night is what I was trying to say, is that you can choose the middle path for the 2 infections and do slightly more damage, or you can choose the bottom path for the extra 1 infection, but in return your damage is going to be a little bit less. So interesting to see. I mean, Lord of Night's not as used, in my opinion, currently in like PvE when it comes to like questing or anything. Nobody uses it, but I can see that bottom path actually being used just for the utility sake and to set up certain things, because you can, it's 5 pips, yeah, and I know some people are gonna be like, well, why don't I just threefold instead? There's certain things you can do with this, and I can see it being viable, just because the fact is you can hit and then you can break a shield, break whatever, and it's still putting 3 infections on the target, which that, yeah, it's still good in my opinion. Like, obviously, am I saying it's the most amazing thing, the most phenomenal thing? I can't say that right now. I don't know, obviously, because I need to like see how it feels in multiple fights. But as it stands, I feel like it's all right. It's good for its utility. But I like to see Lord of Night change, thankfully. And then the last death spell that was changed was the Divum spell. Now, the Divum spell currently, what it does is it just hits and it gives you a plus 35 universal blade, as stated right here. It's a helpful charm. Now, or yeah, 330 I mean it does 330 death damage, but what they're doing now is this is going to be level capped as well, just like the other spells. And then on top of that, we do have a bottom path now, so this top path is still going to exist. They're not removing it, but it's just getting an additional path, which is less damage in return of another blade. And then on top of that, the top path's blade is getting buffed to a 45 blade. So we're seeing a trend here, as I said, where the top path is doing slightly more damage for 1 specific utility, while you can choose another path for doing less damage for double the utility. So interesting to see and what people lean towards. I still kind of like the top path. I think out of the 2, I kind of like the top path, but I know some people are going to lean towards that bottom path, because in a way that's kind of like a mini catch of the day. I'm gonna be honest, the fact that you can just, it's 4 pips, all right, you're doing some damage. Obviously it's not the best damage, but it still does some damage, and you're getting 230% universal blades. Yeah, I wonder if people are going to start using this more, just because, hey, we don't know what catch of the day looks like currently, and who knows if it gets nerfed, or if it's just slight damage nerf. I would assume catch of the day is just getting a slight damage nerf, but we'll have to see. But those are all the death spell changes, and we can move on to life spell changes, which got a major change in my opinion, and it is going to shake up certain strats for PvP and PvE challenge mode stuff. So let's talk about those. If you guys have made it this far into the video, just wanted to remind you guys that 75% of you guys that watch me on a daily basis are not subscribed. So do me a huge favor and subscribe. We're on that grind to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Alright, now let's get back into the rest of the video. So now we're on the Life Wizard, which you guys haven't seen in a minute either. You guys always see me on my Storm or my Fire. But the first spell that I want to talk about, and it's very important to me, which is Pigsy. Yes, Pigsy is going to get changed. Now, top path remains untouched other than the accuracy buffs. I'm assuming all these lore spells got accuracy buffs, but it's now going to be 90% accuracy. Hey, I'll take it. It makes it easier for if I want to use Pigsy on my other characters. But it's being unchanged when it comes to the health values. But Path B, sad to say, but it is getting changed. Now, this, you could look at the change differently depending on how you view it. Okay, so what the spell does now, it's 90% accuracy. It's still going to have a limit of copies. That means you can only pack 4 in your deck. Now, what it does is it's a select target, and it's an 85 burst heal. So it's still going to have the burst heal, which was currently in game is 125, but it's going to be adjusted to 85. And then on top of that, the healing that it does is increased on the hot. It is now doing 12-20, and it's 2 hots that last 4 rounds. Now, look, you might be looking at this, well, isn't this a net buff? Not really if you're using it against multiple targets, because you're going to be splitting it. When you split stuff like this, the potency of the heal is going to be decreased. Now, if you are using this on one specific target, yes, this is a net buff. Of course it is. And I feel like life wizards in PvP are going to be, jading's going to be more on the rise, and I'm glad I don't do PvP. But honestly, for single target stuff, yes, Pigsy is a buff. But when you want to try to use it on multiple targets, it is going to be a net loss to a certain extent. And I wonder how much it's going to be when I use it on multiple targets. Of course, the accuracy got buffed. I mean, hey, cool. But still, Pigsy is a slight change. Also, another thing is, I don't know if this is a writing error. If you look carefully at tier 3 and 4, the tiers do showcase that there is a PvP cap of level 30. But if you look specifically at tier 5, it does not have a level cap of 30. And I'm not too sure if this is a writing error or if this is intentional. I mean, hey, if it's intentional, that's fine by me. I mean, I'm not going to complain if there's any challenge modes in the future or advanced combat modes that are less than 30. Hey, I will gladly use Pigsy. But it's just interesting to see. It just caught my eye when I was like reviewing some of these spells. But yeah, Pigsy is good and bad, depending on how you view it. Good if you're jading P, good if it's a single target. But when you're using it on multiple targets, yeah, it might not be the best. I mean, it's still going to be good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's going to be terrible, but it's going to be good to be able to set up your Jins, of course, but we'll have to see how people use it in certain combat strats. So there's Pigsy. Another spell that got changed was Rat Spin. Now, Rat Spin, the only thing majority I feel like people are going to be paying attention to is that there's a new path. And the damage is going to be changed. Now, the top path is remaining the same, just accuracy change as I stated, but now we do have a middle path as well as a bottom path. So the original Rat Spin that we currently have in game that does 425 and 85 accuracy is no longer a thing. Now we do have a new middle path and bottom path. That middle path and that bottom path, you'll see slight changes. So of course the middle path is also going to have level caps on it to 30, as well as the bottom path. But at max tier for the middle path, it's going to be 280 damage, as well as putting a 180 bomb that lasts 3 rounds. And then if you look at the bottom path, it's doing 40 damage, but you are putting 2 bombs on the target that last 5 rounds that do 570 on detonation. So interesting to see when it comes to that. But I know there were some people complaining, saying like, hey, we wish that we still had the original Rat Spin that we currently have in game for the path B, just because of the fact that they can use it for splitting and doing damage pretty easy. It's not going to be the best for splitting on multiple targets for advanced combat. I'm just going to bring up Mount Olympus challenge mode, but you really can't use this in Mount Olympus challenge mode, just because the fact is the damage on it's just terrible now at max tier, while the original one that's in game is doing 425. The new one, even if you use the middle path, it's only doing 280. Yeah, so I guess life wizards are more just as being supports at this point, which they've always been, but I feel like this is going to push it even harder, so there is that. Now, another spell that got changed, I'd say drastically at this point, is Burrowing Bane. Now, currently what Burrowing Bane does is it puts 2 bombs and it lasts 5 rounds and does 820 damage. And honestly, there were strats where I would actually use Burrowing Bane, just because the fact is it was 820 bomb. It's pretty easy to set up some strats. But yeah, that's no longer a thing. So we do have a new version of Burrowing Bane, which at tier 1, or I guess we can talk about top path because it follows it, which is doing 415 damage at max tier for path A, and then on top of that it's doing a bomb that's 200 and it's lasting 3 rounds. Of course, we do get some accuracy increases, as well as there is a PvP ban on it for the level cap, I guess, and now it's being 40. Interesting to see. And then if you look at the bottom path, which is 50 damage, and now the bomb is only doing 750, and it's of course 2 bombs. So you can see that the bomb did get nerfed slightly, but if you think about it, you are doing 50 damage first, and then you're putting 2 bombs. So you can use this to break a shield and put 2 bombs on target, and then you can detonate the bombs afterwards. Something that's still very useful. Of course, it's a slight nerf for just if you just want to use it for the bomb. Like the traditional one that's currently been used, I guess, in certain strats is the 821. So slight nerf to the bomb. And also I wonder, which I assume it's going to have to work like this too, since it is doing 2 different things. When you're using Epic on Burrowing Bane, it's going to split it. I feel like it's definitely going to split it into both the initial hit and the bomb. So you can't really just enchant Burrowing Bane now and the bomb is just getting full potency. Now it's being split between the first initial hit as well as the bomb. So kind of sucks to see. I wish that they had another path for Burrowing Bane, maybe like a path A, and it kept the original Burrowing Bane and just PvP ban it, just because it was a good spell. The fact is, just because it's just 2 bombs, and if you epic it, it would go straight into the bomb. Versus now it's going to be split between the initial hit and the bomb. I guess that's my only downside. I know some people are going to be like, well, it doesn't affect certain things, but personally for me, I would actually like this original Burrowing Bane, like the original Burrowing Bane that currently is existing in the game, to be just still a path A if possible, or even just another path and just PvP ban it. That would be kind of nice. That's just my take with the Burrowing Bane. Another spell that got changed was Camp Bandit. Now, the original Path A is remaining the same, but the Path B is now getting buffed. Yeah, honestly, Camp Bandit, when it initially came out and it was pushing I think it was eventually got changed to like a push a dot, and people were like, well, this seems good, but like you're only pushing 1 dot and you're spending 5 pips. Now what they decided to do was they buffed the damage on it. Now it's doing 345, and now it's pushing 2 dots. So if you think about it, this is kind of like a mini Zilla in a way, because the fact is, like, you aren't getting, look, like Zilla, you actually get blades out of it and stuff, and you're also clearing them. This is, you're just strictly just doing hot potato, and you're just straight up pushing the dots over. Especially if we see spells coming out, if they give more dots and stuff, yeah, Camp Bandit's going to be crazy. It will definitely be used quite a lot, and there is a cap already on this by default, but now you can't even use the spell in 30 at all. The whole Path B is now just strictly 40 level locked, while the original Camp Bandit in game is 25, 30, 35, 40. Now Path B is just strictly 40 and above. So that's something interesting to see as a whole. Also, I'm hoping one day they change or do something with the top path. It's not as unique. I mean, you're converting a trap to a life trap on the enemy. It still hasn't been a use really for me to use top path Camp Bandit, and still won't be, but hopefully we get a fight in the near future, or even down the line, where we actually have a use for Camp Bandit, because kind of I've just been waiting for that day to happen, and it still hasn't happened. So there is that. Another spell that got changed was Sacred Charge. Top path is remaining the same, but the Path B did get a slight damage nerf, but the aura is now being increased. So instead of 20% outgoing, it's actually giving 40% outgoing. That's interesting to see, a hit in aura. Like, of course, we've already had this and people were using it, and there is a cap on this spell now. It's being capped to 50 and above, so that is still interesting to see. But there is a damage nerf on it. We all can agree to that. But 40% outgoing, it is crazy. That is crazy. I mean, yes, it's still 6 pips, it's 4 pips and a school pip, but damn, 40% outgoing? It actually makes me think what other spells life is getting this update, because yeah, that is insane when it comes to outgoing. Goat Monk is also getting changes. Now the damage path is no longer going to be able to be used in advanced combat / PvP. It is now getting banned. That is completely right. Top path's getting banned, and we are getting a new bottom path. So the original Goat Monk that currently exists in the game, it is going to be remaining the same. You're still going to be allowed to use it in PvP. It's basically going to be untouched. But they added a Path C, where if you want to lose some of your damage, you can increase your healing over time, and now it's 2 hots. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, life is getting a lot of healing spells. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's fine for challenge modes. It's fine for anything like that, like anything PvE related. But healing is going to go crazy in PvP, and I've been spectating a lot of matches recently, and there has been a lot of people trading recently. So this is just, yeah, I don't know, yo. A hit and regenerate, essentially? Like, what's what's going on? The fact that it's, I mean, yeah, you're losing 100 damage, but that heal is crazy, yo. 990, 2 hots? And they last 4 rounds, by the way, so it's not like a 3-round heal. It is a 4-round heal, but still, I don't know, man. I don't even want to comment on that. Anyways, let's go on to the next spell, Luminous Weaver. And this is like, Luminous Weaver's getting crazy too. Like, I don't know, what are they doing? But top path is remaining the same. is being untouched. This middle path is now getting a slight damage decrease to 325, as well as the blades are being increased to 35 blades instead. And as well as we have a new path C where you decrease the damage, which is now 265, and then on top of that you're getting two blades which are now 45%. One's a healing blade and one's a damage blade. Now Luminous Weaver is still going to be great. People are going to be using this still. I think if anything, I feel like people will be leaning towards the middle path more with this one, but I can see some people using that bottom path. I guess it just depends on the scenario. I'm hoping eventually we get a day where we can pack like separate paths of cards, because sometimes, you know, hey, maybe you want to keep a middle path to Luminous Weaver, and sometimes you might want to keep a bottom path. So hopefully someday we get the ability to do that, and if they eventually get the tech to do that. So we'll have to see about that. And then that's it for the life spells. I know this video is kind of long, but there's a lot of spell changes, and I want to talk about my opinions on stuff. So let's move over to Myth, which are the final spell changes that were teased for just for this specific video, because of course we're going to be getting elemental lore spell teasers eventually as well. Now we're on the Myth, and the first spell we're going to be talking about, which didn't think was getting a change personally, but honestly I should have expected it with the amount of changes that we're getting. I should have just expect a lot of spells being changed, which is Athena. Yes, the Athena is getting changed. Accuracy is getting buffed, of course, on all lore spells by 5%, what it seems like. Just going to continue with that. But this current path that exists in the game is going to be banned, but we are getting an addition to two new paths. So the middle path is going to be 460 damage, so slight nerf on the damage by 100. But we are getting a stronger shield, and that shield is doing minus 65% instead of the traditional minus 35%. If you want to, you can opt into the bottom path, which is where you lose even more damage. You get a buff in your utility. Yes, it's not two minus 65% shields. You are going to be getting minus 60% shields, two of them. Now, this is going to be interesting to see depending on how people use this, because the fact is you're getting two minus 60% shields. Now, 5 pips, 355, I don't know. We'll have to see how people take this. Probably not going to be using that bottom one as much. I can see myself using the middle one, but I'm probably not going to lean towards that bottom one at all. And it's a good thing I haven't made a video talking about all these, what's the best path for spells, because we have more changes. So there's going to be a lot of things to talk about. But that is Athena. Another spell that got changed was Wizard101. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But top path is now getting banned, accuracy getting increased, but we have a new path. Now what this new path is doing, it's going to be removing 5 shields off the target, and it's getting a damage increase. But you might be wondering, is it the same pip cost? No, it is not. It is now 4 pips and a school pip. So I know some people were saying, well, why don't we just, what Minotaur exists? And you could make valid arguments for both, and honestly we'll just have to see. People are just probably gonna pack both, let's be honest here. But the fact is removing 5 now. I feel like they should have kept a version of Wizard101 where it maybe removed a certain amount and the pip cost got adjusted to a lower pip variation, because the fact is on other spells we're getting a path B and a path C. The fact that Wizard101 doesn't get that luxury, we're only getting one that says remove 5. It would be nice if we can get like a middle variation or something where it's less of the utility, and maybe lower the pip cost. I don't know. I've talked to some people in the community that do play Myth, and they were wanting to see a variation of Wizard101 with a lower pip cost, but still having some sort of utility, not as potent as the original one, because look, the original one's banned for a reason. So I'm hoping maybe we get an additional path. I don't know. It's still very late. I mean, Darkmoor's still around the corner. We still haven't even had Test Realm, so things can change. But I know some people are looking for a path C or like an additional path of Wizard101. Next spell we move on to is Hero Chrysalis. Now Hero Chrysalis is getting the same treatment as life, but they are no longer bombs. That's right, bombs are just going to be completely wiped from the spell. You are not going to be able to use this, and so many people were using this. So many. I remember when I did 50 peeve for like a little bit, I would see people using Hero Chrysalis left, right, and center, and then just detonating it with certain spells. I feel like now what people do in 50 peeve is they use Hero Chrysalis and then Apocalypse. They just do the wombo combo. But now it's going to be changed. So what it's doing now is at max tier for path A, it's doing 450 damage. And then on top of that, it puts a damage over time that's doing 210. So if you do the math, if let's say you do all the damage and stuff, it is doing 660, which I mean, still it's doing less damage than the original Hero Chrysalis. But when it comes to the bottom path, it is doing a 55 initial hit, and then it's putting 2 damage over times that last 5 rounds that are doing 810. So it's almost similar to the original Hero Chrysalis, slight damage nerf, but one's a bomb, one's a damage over time. So you gotta remember that. So that's like the differences between that. But if I had to take a guess which ones people are going to be leaning towards out of these different variations of paths, I can see everyone going for that bottom path. The fact is of what it's doing. Maybe someone might use the top path. I can see arguments for it. But definitely I can see people using that bottom path. Of course, these spells are getting PvP like level caps on them, or like advanced combat level caps. So this one is going to be 40. Another spell that's getting changed is Keeper of the Flame. Yep, that's right. Original Keeper of the Flame is now getting banned for its top path. You can still use it, of course, in casual play, but for advanced combat challenge mode, it's getting changed. Now we are getting a tier, a middle tier as well as a bottom tier. Now this middle tier is kind of crazy. It is a 4-pip spell that is, well, technically 2 in a school pip, and I'm definitely using this. I'm gonna preface this, I'm using strats for this, but is at max tier is doing 325 mid damage, and then on top of that, it's a chromatic 70% trap. Okay. And this is allowed in 30, so you can use this in challenge mode Aquila if you really wanted to, but it's a 70% trap. And then if you look at the bottom path, it is doing less damage, so it's now doing 260, but it's giving you 2 chromatic traps, and those are both 50. I can see myself using both variations of these spells. Don't get me wrong, I can see very good utility behind this because you know, traditional traps are doing 40% with the buff that's coming in, and the fact is you can use that bottom path just to break a shield on your enemy, and then slapping on 50. You can have a storm even carry this, and they can put 50 storm traps for your 2 other allies, and they can just go hit and then just kill. So I can see this being useful for multi-striking, and then I can even see the middle path be used just to have a 70 trap on an enemy. Like, that is no joke. A 70 trap is nothing. That is a feint. You are putting a feint on the target and breaking a shield. Like, what's going on here? But yeah, both variations are good. I don't know how it's gonna feel towards PvP players. I know we kind of already have a Keeper of the Flame that's existed before. I believe certain fights in the game would have a Keeper of the Flame where it would put a weaving trap, or not, would it put a weaving trap? It would put like a chromatic trap, 2 of them, and it would give one for, like, depending on like what your school is and your other school. Like certain mobs had access to that card, and I would notice it. So we're kind of just getting given that card. So interesting to see. Keeper of the Flame, kind of crazy in my opinion. 70 trap, insane. The 50 traps are still insane to even think about as well, but still, very good spell all around. Now we move on to Ninja Pigs. Now this kind of hurts me. Not because of, like, I have Ninja Pigs tier 5 on 2 characters. I have it tier 5 on my Storm, and I have it tier 5 on my Myth. Now Ninja Pigs I would actually use in the Void Raid, because I know not many people do the Void Raid now, but I would cosplay Myth on my Storm, and I would use that for Millispeeder. I was using Ninja Pigs quite often, and it was just very easy to just do a quick one-shot on Millie and just any of the mob fights. Well, sad to say, but the Ninja Pigs is gone. Yup, this damage is no longer going to exist. 6 pips that do 735 are just going to be gone. Now it's banned. We have 2 new paths. The middle path, what it's doing 470, and then it's putting 2 traps on the enemy, and these are specifically Myth, and it's doing 55 traps. Then we move on to the bottom path, which is less damage, but it's now putting 3 traps that are plus 50% Myth traps. Kind of sad to see, honestly. This one kind of hurts me. Now look, I know like a lot of people use Ninja Pigs in PvE, and a lot of people do get annoyed about Ninja Pigs and stuff, but I enjoyed Ninja Pigs for the fact of it was such a good spell for certain fights, and the fact that I was even cosplaying on my Storm and using it kind of shows it even more. So kind of sucks to see, But the trap potency is going to be crazy, and honestly 50p is going to be going crazy too, because the fact is 50p is going to be so fast paced now, with these traps as well, because you just put a trap, if you don't get rid of it, you just die. Yep, you just die. But yeah, it's sad to see with Ninja Pigs, and I'm kind of curious what other people think about Ninja Pigs as a whole as well. And finally, the last spell we're going to be talking about in today's video is going to be Splash Squatch. Now, Splash Squatch got banned. Now, they even... I don't know what they're doing, but there's two different variations of Splash Squatch. There's a 2-pip and a school pip, and there's a 3-pip and a school pip, which both variations are banned. Why? Why do we have... Why? Now, look... I don't care about either path, realistically. I feel like pick one of the ones, right? I feel like the original one was 2-pip and a school pip. I think it's because the original one on here is 2 pips and a school pip, and then it goes to 3, 3, 3, 3, right? So they just decided to keep both. Honestly, I would just keep it at 3 pips and a school pip, get rid of the path that has 2 and a school pip, and then add like a additional path, if not, or just honestly, this spell should only have 2 paths in my opinion. But what the bottom path is doing, it is doing stealing 3 now, and then is doing 365 damage. So if you think about it, the fact that this is doing steal 3 and 365 damage, it is kind of similar to Reckon Etten currently that exists. So this is kind of like your variation of Reckon Etten that exists. Wherever it is, right? I can't even see. There's so many spells. I don't really like low-key. I'm losing track of what's what at this point. Yeah. So the fact is, like, the current Splash Squatch that's going to be added is doing 365 and stealing. This one's stealing 3, not even removing. This is stealing. This is remove 3. So in a way, this is going to be. Oh my god! No, I just thought about how many people are going to be using this. The fact is, there's going to be. Oh my! The people are just going to be stealing left, right, and center. This is just going to be Steel Ward meta all over again. Yeah, I didn't think about that until I just read the card Steel. So yes, Splash Squatch is going to be stealing shields and doing 365 damage for 4 pips. I think that's a good thing. This is the last spell to showcase in today's video, but anyways, I think this kind of tone sets the mood for what my thought process is. But those are all the spell changes specifically for lore spells that are targeting the spirit schools. Of course, we should be getting teasers either Sunday or next week, talking about this elemental spells, hopefully, as well as balance. I'm curious to see what Lore Master looks like. I'm curious to see what Samurai looks like. I'm curious to look what Catch a Day, Berry Surprise, even some of the other spells, just in general. I'm kind of curious at what some of these spells look like. But still, we already talked about 60 plus spells that are being changed. And on top of that, we have these 20 plus spells. And then we have another spells. And then we have even more. Like, dude, the library is crazy. Honestly, once the way that we know Wiz is going to be completely different. And yeah. But that is it for me. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I'm kind of curious about what spells you guys kind of like or hate. Just let me know in the comments down below and start a discussion, because I'm kind of looking forward to people's opinions on all these spells. But that is it for me. Leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.